Welcome back. We're doing something a little different today,
Yeah, a deep dive into just one book.
but it's one that I think has touched a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. Millions.
The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
It's been praised by, everyone, hasn't it?
Madonna, Bill Clinton, consistently ranked as one of the top books of the 20th century.
And translated into, over 80 languages?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it about this book?
Well, that's what we're here to figure out.
To unpack.
Right, exactly. It's interesting, though, isn't it?
What is?
How Coelho's own story is kind of like a reflection of the book itself.
You mean how he struggled to get it published at first?
Yeah, and then it just blew up through word of mouth, became this phenomenon.
Almost like he lived out Santiago's journey before he even wrote it.
Right.
Okay, so let's dive into this book, see what wisdom we can glean from it.
Sounds good.
Right off the bat, we get this prologue about Narcissus,
Yes.
which most people know the myth, right? The guy obsessed with his reflection.
Right.
But Coelho adds this interesting twist, doesn't he? It's not just Narcissus being vain. It's that the lake itself.
The lake.
Yeah, the lake sees its own beauty reflected back in Narcissus's eyes.
I see.
It makes you think about, the idea of looking within for treasure, for something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, I get that.
It's not just about the surface, but what's reflected back from our, deepest selves.
Our desires, our potential.
Exactly. Which brings us to Santiago.
Our shepherd boy from Andalusia.
Right. But he's not just some, naive dreamer. He's skilled at what he does. Observant. He's already on a journey, even before the journey begins,
I see what you mean.
But what is it that makes him want to travel? Is it just wanderlust, or is there something deeper there?
It's a good question. He keeps having this recurring dream about treasure.
Ah, yes. At the pyramids of Egypt.
But is it really about the treasure itself? Or is the dream trying to tell him something else?
Something he hasn't even put into words yet, maybe. And then we have this old woman he goes to interpret his dream.
And she demands a share of the potential treasure.
Yeah. I love that she's not this, sweet, mystical figure. She's shrewd. She's practical.
True guidance comes at a price.
Not necessarily financial.
Right. More like a willingness to invest something of yourself in the pursuit.
And the pyramids themselves.
What about them?
They're just some random location. They represent something ancient, something grand.
A meeting point of past and present?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we meet this, he calls himself the King of Salem.
A king.
Right. Hanging out with the shepherds, playing with our expectations. But he seems to know so much about Santiago.
Like he's been watching him.
Yeah. And then he drops this whole concept of the personal legend.
Ah, yes. The idea that we each have a unique purpose.
A reason we're here.
Not just a dream, but a calling.
He even calls it the world's greatest lie.
What's that?
That we lose control of our lives to fate. That feeling of being stuck. Life's just happening to you and not for you.
Oh, yeah. I've felt that.
So Santiago's at this crossroads. He's got this comfortable life, but this old man is telling him to sell everything and go to Egypt.
It does seem a bit irresponsible, doesn't it? Just drop everything, chase some dream.
Right. What about obligations?
Responsibilities.
But there's this line. I love this line. It says, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it.
Powerful stuff.
Right. It's like this message of faith, of trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
So what does Santiago do?
He takes the leap. Sells his sheep, heads for Africa.
Yeah.
Well, of course, things don't go exactly as planned. He gets robbed in Tangier.
Ah, a harsh reality check.
But even in that moment, he finds those stones the old king gave him.
The Urim and Thummim. Right.
Yeah. And it's this reminder that even when things are falling apart, guidance is still there, if you look for it.
So what's next?
Well, he ends up working for this crystal merchant.
Some might see this as just a detour in the story.
But I think it's more than that.
How so?
Well, it's a lesson in adaptation, in finding opportunity in the everyday stuff. The crystal merchant wasn't just selling glasses.
Yeah.
He was creating an experience.
Ah, I see.
Remember when he served tea in those crystal glasses?
Yeah.
He was elevating the ordinary.
Interesting. But the merchant himself,
Yeah.
he has this dream of going to Mecca.
But never does it.
Right. He even uses that word, maktub.
Meaning?
It is written like he's resigned to his fate, trapped by his own fear, maybe.
But you can see Santiago's spirit starting to rub off on him, can't you?
Oh, definitely.
And then things shift.
Yeah.
Remember that display case Santiago helps him build?
I do.
It attracts more customers. The shop starts doing better. It shows that, even small actions, when they're inspired by Like a clear intention can make a
That
difference.
changed things.
Exactly.
So Santiago could have stayed there.
He could have
Hmm.
made a good living, maybe even bought back his sheep, but he couldn't ignore that pull any longer. He knew he had to go to Egypt.
This time it wasn't about logic or money.
It was intuition, that deep knowing that this was his path,
And trusting that.
even when his head was probably screaming at him to play it safe.
So off he goes.
Across the Sahara with a caravan.
Which becomes this metaphor for life itself.
Wait, hold on. What makes the caravan such a powerful metaphor?
Well, you've got all these people from different places, different stories, but traveling together towards the same destination.
Right.
And there are going to be detours, obstacles, moments of doubt, but they rely on each other, learn from each other, share the burden of the journey.
Just like life.
Exactly.
And it's in this caravan
Yeah.
that Santiago meets the Englishman, right?
Obsessed with alchemy.
Finding the Philosopher's Stone. And their approaches are so different.
How so?
Well, Santiago's more intuitive, trusting in signs and omens. The Englishman is all about books and formulas.
Makes you wonder, are there many paths to the truth?
Or maybe you need both.
The head and the heart.
I love that. It makes me think about my own, approach to things. I tend to be more like Santiago, but sometimes I wonder if I'm missing something by not being more, structured.
Like the Englishman?
Yeah.
But maybe it's about finding a balance.
You need both, right?
The Englishman, with all his knowledge, still hasn't found what he's looking for. And Santiago, with all his intuition, still needs guidance, needs wisdom.
And speaking of wisdom,
This is where we first hear about the soul of the world.
right, this concept that everything is connected.
There's this universal energy flowing through all things.
But what does that really mean? Like, is it just some mystical idea or?
Well, the Englishman explains it as, remember the glasses in the crystal shop?
Yeah.
He says, even they were, in a way, collaborating in the boy's success.
It's like we're not separate from the world around us. Our thoughts, our intentions, they have an impact.
On the energy of the universe.
So it's not just about observing the world.
It's about participating in its creation.
Like synchronicity, right?
Those meaningful coincidences.
It's like the universe is trying to tell you something.
And as Santiago learns the language of the world, he starts seeing those synchronicities everywhere. He's reading the signs in the desert, in the flight of birds, chance encounters.
It's like he's tuning into a frequency that was always there.
He's just now able to perceive it.
And those whispers lead him to the oasis.
Whiz!
Well, it's more than just a few palm trees and a well.
What is it then?
It's this bustling hub.
Busy.
Thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it's where he meets Fatima.
And falls in love.
Head over heels.
But how does he reconcile this, intense love for Fatima with his personal legend?
Because they seem to be pulling him in different directions.
Right.
It's a balance, isn't it? Love and personal pursuits.
And Fatima, being a woman of the desert, she seems to understand.
That sometimes you have to let go to find yourself.
And there's this trust between them, that they'll find their way back to each other.
So he chooses his personal legend.
Even though it means leaving her behind.
And just when you think things can't get more complicated,
What happens?
the oasis gets caught in the middle of a tribal war.
Oh, no.
Talk about bad timing.
It's like one more obstacle in his path.
Maybe it's not about the timing, but how he responds to it.
And this is where we finally meet the alchemist.
Okay, I think we need to pause here.
Yeah, we're just getting to the good part.
We'll pick this up in part 2.
Can't wait.
All right, so we're back, and we're ready to get back into The Alchemist.
Back into the desert.
Right. Where we left off, Santiago was facing this, almost impossible choice.
Stay at the oasis with the woman he loves.
Or follow the alchemist deeper into the desert to keep pursuing his personal legend. And he chooses the alchemist.
Which, from the outside seems a little crazy.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But maybe it's not so much about the actual choice, but what that choice represents. Yeah. The courage to stay true to your path, even when there are, temptations and distractions. And Fatima, she gets it.
She's a woman of the desert. She understands.
That sometimes you have to let go of what you love
in order to, find yourself.
and there's this deep trust between them, right?
They'll find their way back to each other.
Okay, but that trust is, immediately tested.
Oh, so
Well, they're traveling deeper into the desert. Tribal war is breaking out.
dangerous.
They encounter these armed warriors.
And the alchemist?
He remains completely calm, like almost detached from the danger.
He's operating on a different level of awareness.
It's like he's not ignoring the danger,
Yeah.
but he's seeing through it.
Understanding the bigger picture.
You know, it makes me think about that idea, the obstacle is the way.
Meaning,
Maybe these challenges aren't meant to, stop Santiago, but to teach him something.
something essential for his journey.
Exactly. And the alchemist, he doesn't just give Santiago the answers
He guides him through experience.
through observation.
Like when he tells Santiago to turn himself into the wind.
Right. I mean, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Turn yourself into the wind.
It sounds impossible.
But maybe that's the point. To push past what we think is possible.
Tap into a power greater than ourselves.
To surrender to the flow of the universe.
Aligning with the forces of creation. But that takes trust.
A lot of trust.
Letting go of control, embracing the unknown.
It's terrifying.
It is for most people.
So how does Santiago learn to do that? I mean,
He starts by facing his fears.
the alchemist forces him to, confront those doubts, those whispers in his heart, saying he's not good enough.
That he'll fail.
And that's a battle we all fight, don't we?
That inner critic trying to keep us small.
Keep it safe.
But in the book, Santiago doesn't just, fight these voices. He has actual conversations.
Oh, yeah.
The desert, the wind, the sun.
He talks to the elements.
It sounds strange, but
Yeah.
there's something beautiful about that, isn't there?
I get.
He's engaging with nature, seeking wisdom from sources, beyond the human.
And what do they say?
Each element offers a different perspective.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, the desert talks about patience, resilience. The
Yeah.
wind, it speaks about change, freedom. And the sun,
The sun.
love, life-giving energy. And through these dialogues, these conversations,
Santiago starts to understand.
that everything's connected.
Even the desert, the wind, the sun, they all have their own personal legends.
It's like he's tapping into the consciousness of the universe.
That everything has a purpose, a role to play,
And it's the sun that tells him to speak to the hand that wrote all.
to connect with the divine.
Exactly.
And that leads to that incredible moment
Mm.
where Santiago experiences this huge shift.
A shift in consciousness.
Right. He sees the interconnectedness of everything, the
Yeah.
patterns, the synchronicities. He realizes the omens are everywhere,
And that there's this deeper meaning to it all.
even if we don't always get it.
It's a moment of surrender. Realizing we're not just separate individuals.
We're part of this web of energy and intention.
Exactly.
And it's this realization that allows him to actually turn into the wind.
He taps into that energy, the universal flow.
It propels him closer to his treasure.
But there are still challenges ahead.
There are.
They get captured by tribal warriors,
Oh, no.
threatened with death unless they can prove their worth.
And what happens?
This is where we see the alchemist's true mastery. He doesn't fight back with force.
What does he do?
He uses his understanding of alchemy, of the language of the world, to, demonstrate his power.
He turns lead into gold. Come
Yeah.
on, that's amazing. But is it really magic?
That's a good question. Some might see it as a supernatural act, but maybe it's about understanding the laws of the universe, the transformative power that's within nature itself,
He's not breaking the laws of physics. He's bending them.
revealing the hidden potential.
But what I find fascinating is that he doesn't keep all that gold.
He gives most of it away.
Why? After all that risk.
It speaks to a deeper understanding of abundance. The alchemist knows true wealth isn't about material possessions. It's about, aligning with the soul of the world.
The source of everything
He trusts that what's meant for Santiago will come back to him.
the universe provides.
And to illustrate this point, he tells Santiago that story about the father and his two sons.
Oh, right.
One becomes a poet, the other a soldier, but it's the soldier's words that are, immortalized, even though he wasn't the one seeking fame.
So it's about the unexpected nature of life. That sometimes the most, ordinary paths can have the greatest impact.
Exactly. And we never really know where our actions will lead. Every choice we make, every step, it all ripples outwards, shaping the world in ways we might not ever fully understand.
We're all part of this unfolding story.
And even the smallest roles can have a profound impact.
But then the alchemist leaves.
He leaves Santiago to finish the journey on his own.
He's given him the tools, the guidance, the wisdom,
Now it's up to Santiago to actually find the treasure.
and he finally reaches the pyramids. But as he gets closer, his heart, it whispers something unexpected.
pulling him away from the pyramids.
Yeah.
What could be more important than reaching his destination? It's like his heart's telling him, nope, not here.
Right. So where does it lead him?
Not to those majestic pyramids, to this, well, seemingly ordinary spot, just out in the open desert.
Okay.
But when he gets there,
Yeah.
Santiago's overcome with emotion.
We're brought to tears.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what is it about this place that holds such power?
Maybe it's a reminder that we often look too far for what's, right in front of us.
We get so caught up in those grand expectations, these fantasies of what our treasures should be.
When the real treasure might be hidden in plain sight.
The simplest places.
The moments that move us,
Yeah.
that touch our soul.
Exactly.
Okay, so what happens? He starts digging
Right where his tears fell?
and finds
Nothing.
nothing. I mean, can you imagine all this way, everything he's been through?
And there's nothing there.
Wouldn't it have been, I don't know, more powerful if there wasn't any treasure there?
How so?
Like to really drive home that the journey itself was the treasure.
Oh, I see what you mean. It would definitely have reinforced that message.
Right.
But remember, this is a story about faith, trusting the whispers of the universe.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe finding nothing in that moment was another test for Santiago, a chance to question everything, to really recommit to his path.
And the human appear.
Drawn by his digging.
They see him digging and assume he's found something valuable. They demand a share of the treasure.
So what does he do?
He's desperate. He ends up telling them everything
About his journey.
about the dream.
Oh, man. Talk about vulnerable.
He's laying bare his soul to these strangers.
And they,
They mock him.
of course they do. They tell him he's foolish to believe in such things. They represent those cynical voices we all encounter. The ones that try to, dim our light, tell us our dreams are stupid.
Yeah, I know those voices.
It's almost like they're projecting their own fear onto Santiago.
Their own regrets.
Trying to protect him from disappointment, maybe. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's in that moment of being mocked that Santiago has a breakthrough. He realizes they're right.
About.
There's no physical treasure there, but he has found something far more valuable.
Which is?
The wisdom he's gained along the way, the growth, the self-discovery.
So the journey was the treasure.
But wait, there's more.
There is.
One of those men, the one who is mocking him, he mentions having a dream,
A dream about.
finding treasure, at an abandoned church with a sycamore tree growing inside.
Okay.
And where was this church located?
Don't tell me.
Andalusia, the same place where Santiago's journey began.
I'm out.
Talk about full circle. The treasure was there all along, waiting for him to come back. But he had to go on that journey, that whole adventure, to be able to see it.
He had to lose himself to find himself.
Exactly. And he does. He goes back to that church, starts digging.
Yeah.
He finds a chest filled with gold coins, precious stones.
So there was physical treasure.
There was. But what does he do? He doesn't hoard it. He doesn't spend it recklessly.
What does he do?
He remembers his promise to that old woman, the one who interpreted his dream.
And gives her a tenth of his treasure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He honors the people who helped him along the way.
And then
He buys back his sheep.
he goes back to being a shepherd.
He returns to his roots. But now he's not just a shepherd, he's an adventurer. Someone who has faced the unknown and come back transformed.
Wow.
And of course,
He goes back to Fatima.
that image of the Levanter wind carrying the scent of her perfume, a sign that she's still waiting. He comes full circle. But this time he's returning with a heart full of love, wisdom, and the treasure he was always meant to find.
So what does all this mean for us? What can we learn from Santiago's story?
That's the question each of us has to answer for ourselves. What are the whispers in our hearts? What dreams have we buried? The Alchemist reminds us it's never too late to embark on our own journey, to listen to the omens, learn the language of the world, and discover the treasures that await us.
Both within and without.
Exactly. And remember, like Santiago, we might find that the real treasure isn't the destination, but the journey itself.
And just like this book, our deep dive is full of symbolism and open to interpretation. What did you take away from it? What resonated with you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your reflections with us online. And until next time, keep seeking your own personal legend.